got to witness an interesting live example of a lot of the things we talk about in these videos play out, particularly in conversation, right? When people have potentially differing views and how the dynamics of that can really just totally break bad and take a situation that doesn't need to be bad and make it ripe to be bad. So, quick context. My son, as you might imagine, I spend a lot of time talking to him about things like this and important topics, deeper topics, thinking deeper, trying to be rational, trying to empathize, etc. So something that came up recently was race. We were talking about race a little bit, and coincidentally, we were he did something at school about the president. So he had a big picture that showed all the presidents from George Washington through to Joe Biden. And he just, for whatever reason, wanted to write all their names on paper. So as he was doing that, we were talking about it, and we noticed that Barack Obama is the only one with brown skin on there. So we kind of noted that. And I said, it's not a great thing, right? In theory, it should be more mixed. The best person for the job should get it. But it's pretty obvious, when you look at it, that at times there was a pretty deliberate effort not to have that happen. We got into that a little bit. And then, coincidentally, the part I mentioned, a little bit later, we were watching a Disney movie. I don't even remember which one now at the moment. It might have been Beauty and the Beast or something. I don't remember. But we noticed how there wasn't really any people with brown skin in that movie. Everybody had white skin. And same point. Like, hey, it would probably be better if it was a better mix. And, I can imagine if I was a little boy or a little kid with brown skin watching it, that might feel weird to me. Like, hey, how come nobody like me looks like that on there? So pretty good conversation. Jump to the next piece where he found himself in a conversation with a family member of mine recently who, I should say, like, at the core, I don't think disagrees with those points or those views, but this is where it gets interesting. So, my son mentioned it somehow, that we're doing this president thing, and mentioned these two issues, that only one president had brown skin and that nobody in the movie had brown skin, and how that's a problem. And how, it's important, and somehow it got connected a little bit to the concept of Black Lives Matter and that their lives matter, and, that's an example where they don't. So the family members started pressing a little bit. And part of it, I think, is they meant to do it in earnest, is, hey, that's interesting. You have a point of view. Let's talk about that a little bit. Why do you think that? Let's explore it. Let's understand the nuance. But the view wasn't directly aligned with that other person, right? There were some things that differed in it. So I, as a third party, just kind of observing this, could witness where just subtle things, right? The tone of the voice, the way the question's asked, the degree of combativeness or aggressiveness to it was kind of being put on, and kind of probing at some of the views my son had, and the underneath, right, the second level why of some of the things he was saying and why he thought there might be a problem in society today. And this was kind of the first, maybe the most impactful, interesting dynamic of that, is as I'm witnessing that happen, I'm watching my son go from, in the beginning, somewhat excited about the topic, just genuinely, but pretty just matter of fact about it in terms of this seems bad, that seems bad. And when the family member brought up some points that were pretty benign, that, oh yeah, that's true too. But once that tone started, once that approach came and it became a little bit more defensive, or a little bit more aggressive on the one side, I saw my son's reaction and how he started digging in more, and he started being more adamant about his points, and there was less thinking and thoughtfulness going into it. It was more just reacting, and here's why you're wrong, and then his voice raised, and you were watching it play out, between a child and an adult, but the same dynamics you would expect. And it's interesting when it's a child because, typically he's 7, so not 4 or anything, but it's coming from a much purer place. There's nowhere near as many preconceived, pre-baked biases and views and identity issues and all that stuff. That baggage isn't there. So when you watch somebody like that get pulled into this and you see it start to play out, and you're like, even them, right? They don't have identity issues. It's just the natural flow of this conversation. Our mind is so akin to it that, if I said something and somebody's now disagreeing with me and they're doing it in a certain way, it's, as we know, right? The fight or flight kicks in. You almost can't help it. But then all of a sudden you take a topic like this and it becomes an argument and a disagreement, when in theory both people agree racism is bad, we don't want that. But now they're on different sides of it, and it's more combative, and I'm seeing my son get more extreme in his views and getting, digging in deeper as a result of this reaction. So just such like an interesting thing to see that play out, and interesting also from the family member's side that, I don't think they meant to go into it getting aggressive like that. And I actually mentioned it at one point while they were talking, and they just couldn't see it. So that's the other interesting dynamic of it, how it sneaks up on us, whether on the defensive side or on the attacking side, right? Our subconscious is at play there, and there are things, if we hear things we don't like, it forces us to question it. And we don't want to question it because we don't like that. So we're going to shut it down, and we're going to, tell that person why it's bad so we can almost protect ourselves too. And again, you just saw it in full display. You saw a full display of a topic where there's differing views, and people, even well-intentioned, get drawn into either being aggressive or being defensive and digging in more and getting loud and getting, more rowdy and more adamant and dogmatic about their views. So, I plan to have my son about it, a conversation with my son about it. I'll probably do a follow-up video just to kind of talk through what he was thinking as it played out. But that was at least my third-party observation.